and welcome back to another episode of the Big Red with B. Schneid Show. We got the Big Red with B. Schneid preview. I'm joined by Sam Ojeda, one of the coworkers I work with at Husker Online. Sam, just look forward to having you on. And how are you doing?
Bobby, I'm doing well. I'm happy it's Thursday. I'm ready for game day. I'm really excited to be in the press box once again with all my Husker Online interns and Sean and Robin and all them, especially to see finally a good game and not necessarily a game against Houston Christian.
Yeah, well, we got the preview show. Nebraska is currently, as of today, going into Saturday, they have lost 27 straight contests to ranked opponents dating back to 2016, where the Huskers knocked off Oregon 35-32. Can't believe it's been that long, but then you start to think about it, and you can believe it at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. If you look at past rosters you've had, I mean, so the Oregon game, would that have been Adrian Martinez? That was the quarterback for that game.
Oh no, that was way before Adrian. That was Tommy Armstrong.
Oh my gosh, we're going way back. Okay,
Tommy Armstrong was the quarterback. That was Mike Riley's second year.
Was that the year they started 7-0?
That was the year, and then they went up and lost in overtime to Wisconsin, and then I think that they had the cheerleaders suit up the next week to go play Ohio State, where they got beat. What was it, 62-3?
Yeah,
or something. The black. That was the black skirts edition of Nebraska, as we like to call it.
When you look at it, and the reason I didn't know who the quarterback was is because when you go through so many mediocre years of Husker football, the years just all blend together. Whether it's Mike Riley or Scott Frost, it doesn't really matter because it's just mediocre, sub 500. I mean, outside of that year, but it's sub 500 garbage that it just all blends together as bad football.
Yeah. Well, Sam, let's dive into it. I want to start with talking about Michigan. Of course, let's talk about Ernest Hausmann, a guy that was played his freshman year first 3 games under Scott Frost and then Mickey Joseph, winds up hitting the portal. Now he's a team captain, all-American, all Big Ten type of linebacker, leading the Wolverines with, I believe, 20 tackles on the season thus far. Just what do you take away from Hausmann?
Well, I take away the fact that it's unfortunate that he's not a black shirt. When he hit the portal, I don't think it really surprised anybody. You knew he had high talent. I'm pretty sure he was a 4-star coming out of high school. And so when he hits the portal, you're like, it's not surprising. And then he goes to Michigan and he pretty much was really good right away. I don't remember his exact numbers from because he redshirted after playing 4 games for Frost, right?
No, he played the whole season, I believe.
Yeah, I couldn't remember, but yeah, regardless, he had a great I think you're right. I think he played the whole season and
senior.
Yeah, and I just remember seeing him as a junior, so that would have been last year because he's a senior this year. And I remember looking and I was like, he plays for Michigan. Like, I know that he was good and I knew that he had a career, but I compare it almost like DeColdis Crawford when he played for Nebraska. He leaves and you're like, where did this guy go? Well, Ernest Hausmann ends up popping up for Michigan. I mean, he is really good. He's a captain. He leads this Michigan defense that is one of the best in the country. I mean, yeah, they struggled against Oklahoma and their electric quarterback, Heisman frontrunner quarterback. But they look really good against the run. I mean, they are pretty dominant offense, and Hausmann's one of the reasons or dominant defense, and he's one of the reasons that they are like that.
Yeah, and I wanted to, before we build on this, I wanted to actually say we're getting closer to the goal I had of 100 subscribers by November. In the past month, I believe I've gained nearly 20 subscribers, so nearly tripling that. And I looked at my analytics, and around 5% of the people that watch these videos are subscribed. So if you guys could shoot this a like, subscribe, and then shoot us some comments. Sam, I look forward to having him on throughout the year and everything, the breakdown, not just Husker football, but other sports as well. So do that, and be sure to follow Sam on Twitter. That is his handle right there. And of course, myself. But yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's Michigan, and Hausmann, they've developed him into an NFL type linebacker, and that's going to be, I mean, that's the guy that stands out on the defense. I think they got some edge guys. A couple of them have a couple sacks on the year, but the main concern, we could talk about that, but we know what it's going to come down to for Nebraska in this game. It's not going to be necessarily, I don't think, the offense not being able to get in the red zone and maybe get some points. It's going to come down to stopping this guy, Justice Haynes. I mean, Alabama transfer leading the Big Ten and averaging nearly 8 yards per carry.
Yeah, he's good. I mean, there's no denying it. I mean, I don't know if you've listened to Sean and Sip on the show today yet, but they talked about how he is pretty much unstoppable. And while numbers wise, it's somewhat comparable to what they saw from Edwards last week with Houston Christian in terms of the big yards per carry, but that's only because Edwards was getting a ton of carries. He doesn't necessarily have the big play threat that they're going to see this week, and obviously Houston Christian pales in comparison to what Michigan's bringing up front. And so I think the fact that Nebraska gets to face him, not has to, they get to face him, is something as journalists and as fans, we are really excited to see. How do we stop him? Bobby, I don't know, because our defensive front is not going to be able to push around this offensive line.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned Sean's show, so actually I turned on for a little bit. I listened about half of it, and they were talking about Sean was thinking they're going to see a lot of 4-man fronts now. They haven't really showed that, but he has a good point. Nebraska is so undersized in the defensive line, but there is a guy I think that we're going to see step up on Saturday, and that's Riley Van Poppel. Last week, he had the strip sack, the forced that touchdown for Williams-Nwaneri. So I think that there are guys on this defensive line that can step up. I'm not saying that they're going to hold Michigan under 100 yards or something. I think Michigan still might run for 152 yards, but I think that the defensive line, they're going to scheme them up. They've been saving some of this stuff to use against Michigan. And who knows? I could be totally wrong. That's my biggest concern. That's the only reason I wouldn't pick Nebraska, is the fact that if Michigan gets into the fourth quarter and they are running the football down Nebraska's throat, and then you add in this guy, Bryce Underwood, with his dual threat ability, getting out of the pocket, like Sorsby did in week 1, well, yeah, Nebraska's screwed.
Yeah, Bobby, I am going to almost disagree with you there, because I think if Nebraska holds Michigan under 250 yards rushing, it is an A-grade game, in my opinion. I don't think Riley Van Poppel is going to be able to handle a double team for Michigan, which is why they might do the 4-down lineman. But still, Riley Van Poppel is small. He is undersized. I got to interview him just a couple months ago, and I was like, this guy plays defensive line. No hate against Riley Van Poppel, because he has shown he did have the good play. But you're talking about Houston Christian's offensive line, not Michigan.
I mean, he's 300 pounds. I think that guys like Riley Van Poppel, maybe a Gabe Moore. I know that he didn't play against Cincy, but he's a bigger body. And I think that you might see some looks where you have them two as the D tackles, a legitimate 4-3 type of look. And then maybe off the edge, or maybe a 4-2-5, actually, if you think about it, with the way Nebraska uses DBs, have your Rover, Singleton, or Guthrie come down. But on the edges, then Pet Shock. You have Williams-Nwaneri, Cam Lenhart. And then we're also not talking about a guy that has been playing much lately, just because they've been rotating so many guys on the defensive line, but that's Keona Davis. Mm-hmm. I think that some of those guys, I think we got to remember, yes, they're young, but these are talented guys, and that's why they're here at Nebraska. Now, yeah, I can see what you're saying, though, holding Michigan 250 yards, but I still think that Nebraska, if they can hold them to under 200 and force Bryce Underwood to throw the football, I think Nebraska's fan base is going to be pretty happy. I mean, we saw that Oklahoma game. What was he, 9-24?
Mm-hmm. He did not play well. But he also didn't have much time in the pocket. He didn't really use his legs, which I think was a little disappointing to see. And I think John Butler would appreciate it if he would have ran the ball a little bit more against Oklahoma. But, he didn't have much time in the pocket, and it's going to require Nebraska to bring that pressure.
Yeah, who are some guys that you think can get in the backfield? A guy comes to mind for me. I mean, Van Poppel did get strip sack, but I think this is a game for Williams-Nwaneri. I mean, yeah. I know he's not necessarily the biggest defensive end in college football, and you could make an argument for Cade Petschok. I think that, and maybe Desan McCullough as the jack. I mean, those guys, this is their game.
Yeah, this game's going to be one with the linebackers, Bobby. I mean, you got guys like Javen Wright, Deshaun McCullough, Marquise Watson-Trent kind of looked like he was able to figure it out last week. He got in the backfield a couple times. I mean, you look at guys like that. That is where Nebraska is going to win the game. Singleton is going to be a reason Nebraska wins this game if they win this game. I just think that Singleton plus McCullough and their combination, and you throw in a Javen Wright or a Marquise Watson-Trent or any of the other cornerbacks. I mean, we run a super complicated defense that I don't even think we've seen half of yet. I think that's who needs to get into the backfield. You're going to have your defensive linemen fill up the blockers, but then after that, you've got to have your linebackers come through and make those plays. I don't think it's necessarily coming from at least the interior of the defensive line.
I'll a little bit disagree with that, but I see what you're saying with the linebackers. But I do think that the defensive line is going to be the breaking, or I guess the deciphering factor. But I see what you're saying. I mean, they got to fill those gaps. Got to be able to scrape, because I mean, those D-line can only plug the gaps. That's what you're asking them to do. You're asking a guy like Van Poppel, hey, make sure that they can't run through the A gap. But once they hit that B gap, a guy like a Watson-Trent or a Vincent Shavers, a Javen Wright, or a safety like Singleton coming down in the box, maybe Dawson Merritt, we've been seeing a lot. He's been playing well.
I didn't even think.
And I know he's a true freshman, but big game for these guys, and that's where we're going to find. What are we going to see? I mean, it's we won't know until Saturday. We could speculate here till kickoff if we wanted to, and think of every scenario and be like, oh, well, this guy was a 4-star recruit and he was recruited by Michigan, but he chose to come to Nebraska. Well, that ain't going to do any good. It is still Michigan, excuse me.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think you talk about the speculation, and it's like before the season, I mean, even, Robin and Sean, they were just sick of getting on the show and just speculating about what was going to happen. They're like, let's watch us play football. And then we speculated to the Cincinnati game. We learned what Nebraska could be during the Cincinnati game, but we also learned their struggles. And now we've been speculating again for 3 weeks. So, I mean, we knew we were going to beat Akron. We knew we were going to beat Houston Christian. And we knew they were probably going to be soundly if this was the Husker football team that we were expecting to see this season. And so just like you, I'm sick of speculating. I want to see Nebraska on the field against a Big Ten defense with Hausmann there, and then a Big Ten offensive line.
Yeah, and it's interesting because a lot of the Michigan, on the discussion boards, as we are getting our own forum and kind of comment on some things, but the Michigan fan base, some Nebraska fans point out Michigan's really just saying they're not pleased with their offensive line. But I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. It's still Michigan's, and some people have pointed out from their fan base, they point out Nebraska's defensive line. One guy we haven't even mentioned in talking about the defensive line is the actual starting nose tackle for the Huskers, Elijah Judy. I'm not sold on him. I haven't been sold on him from the first rep against Cincinnati. I don't know why he is out there as much as he is. It just doesn't make sense to me.
What do you think they see? I mean, I get it. He's a senior. He's one of your upperclassmen. Maybe they see him pairing well with Van Poppel. Maybe he's got good chemistry with the Jacks. Like, I'm not really sure. But has he even had an explosive defensive play? Does he even have a TFL?
I don't even know.
Let me look. I mean, Elijah Judy has 0 tackles for loss, 3 total on the season. That includes assisted tackles. No sacks, no hurries, no PB, literally nothing. And yet he's still the starting nose tackle. And they don't comment on it either, really, from what I can tell.
No, you don't. And I mean, that's we're going to find out on Saturday, because I think that you trot out Judy on the first drive and he gives up or just lets him push him down the field. I mean, you don't have to have tackles necessarily as a nose tackle. I mean, as long as you're plugging the gaps, you can do a good thing. Nash Hutmacher did it for a couple of years at Nebraska. But yeah, I agree. But let's transition over to the offense, because we know that the main key to the game is Nebraska's defense stopping the run. That blatantly obvious. But still, Dr. Raiola, Dylan Raiola, I mean, it falls in his hands. This is what he came to Nebraska for. I mean, a lot of these guys. Rule even said at Thursday's presser, he said, this is why you come to Nebraska, for games like this. And Dylan said it on Tuesday as well. So I mean, this is his biggest game of his career. And I think that he's going to have to deliver. I think that 250 yards or so through the air is expected from Raiola this week.
Yeah, I think it's time. I mean, you have this 5-star quarterback who, like, in a suspect way, automatically dropped down the board in the recruiting rankings after he commits to Nebraska, and then Underwood shoots up all that. All the storylines about Underwood versus Raiola are very fun and very true. But when it comes down to it, I want to compare Raiola now in Game 4 versus Raiola last year in Game 4. Right? He was true freshman last year. He was at a point where, if you remember the Northern Iowa game, it was like 24-3, kind of late in that game, and then the twos scored late there. But if you look at him, his stat lines were, 250 sub 250 passing yards, maybe an interception here or there, was looking a little uncomfortable. And I get it. He's a true freshman, but while Nebraska's weapons are better this year, I don't think it's a drastic enough drop off to be like, oh, he's playing so much better because the wide receiver room is better. He's just a better player. I mean, he's more mature. You heard Matt Rule and Dana say that, like, he's ready. Like, there's no speculation about Dylan Raiola anymore. He is ready for the big time. And I think that this game is going to tell us if Dylan Raiola is the Heisman caliber quarterback. I'm not saying he's going to win a Heisman trophy during his career. I'm not going to go that far. But is he the number 1 overall player, Heisman caliber quarterback that Nebraska has been looking for since, like, Eric Crouch?
Yeah, you have a hell of a point. Now, one thing that is interesting is Nebraska's main kryptonite on offense this year has been when they get down inside the 5, it's like 1st and 50 for them for some reason. Now, is there a chance we see them trot out Latif? That was a big thing on the Red Sea Scrolls forum this week. Is a lot of Nebraska fans about the idea, and I will say it doesn't sound like a terrible alternative to maybe try.
If our first Big Ten game wasn't against Michigan, sure. Against Michigan, with as strong as a defense as they've shown generally, I don't think so. I think you're better off handing it to Emmett Johnson a couple times, trotting out. I'm trying to think of what defensive player has gone out there. Has it been
Lenhart?
Lenhart's gone out there and done similar to what they did last year.
But it hasn't worked is the thing. They've been getting stuffed. They're 6 of 9 inside the 5 and scoring touchdowns. That's where I mean, maybe, and I've heard some other people say, maybe they direct snap it to Heinrich and run quarterback power. I don't know. I mean, I think I agree. Run your offense, but maybe we do see Rick Light. It's pretty unlikely, but you never know. But I agree. I like this guy. I like Quentin Ives.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Some people are still specifically not high on Quentin Ives, and there's people around Husker football who have been around Husker football way longer than I have, and maybe they're seeing something I'm not. I understand he doesn't break tackles like an Emmett Johnson, but Emmett Johnson is sky high above everybody else. Like, where is the hate of Quentin Ives coming from?
I mean, and I can get the argument, he's playing against Akron, Houston Christian. Those holes are wide open. But you're telling me that Mekhi Nelson or Isaiah Mosey's done any better? Because they haven't. I mean, yeah, they've got some passes out of the backfield and burst down the sideline. But I'm talking about when Emmett Johnson ain't in the game, I'm putting in Quentin Ives to run the football. I'm over anybody else. I know. I think a big thing was just confidence for the guy. Yeah, he hasn't gotten on the field much this is his redshirt sophomore year at Nebraska. But another thing you can think about is he hasn't had any reps to build up any confidence. So, and I really think that maybe last week getting 85 yards was pivotal. But who knows? I mean, we both know that Emmett Johnson right here, he's going to be the guy that's going to probably get 20 plus carries, and he should, because.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go back to what you said about the red zone offense. Dana said something in his press conference this week that, like, there's no exceptions, right? You need to score in the red zone. but he also didn't seem to raise any alarm. I think, he pointed out the fact that before he got there, it was like 40 something percent they were in the red zone. And now they're like 65%. I think that's the number I'm under. Yeah, something like that. And he did not seem worried. It makes me think like he's like, guys, you haven't even seen clear, like even close to what our red zone offense could look like. Like, I really think if we get in that situation where inside the 5 again, like we're going to see something we haven't seen yet. And to bounce off of that with Ives is, I think the main reason why I'm so high on Ives this season is because it hasn't just been his yards per carry that he's been getting, but his pass catching ability out of the backfield has been huge. He had that one touchdown, and then I think he's got 4 or 5 receptions this year for like 60-ish yards. Like, he's definitely shown that potential. And running back pass catching in the red zone is such a big deal because you have all these routes that are headed towards the end zone. I think of the play last week with Dane Key and Lindenmeyer. It was just like run straight into the end zone. I don't know a ton of football terminology, but it's like get into the end zone and see if Raiola is there. Like, if you can have a guy like Ives bouncing off of that into the flat where Raiola can just hit. I'm just saying, using Ives in the red zone as a pass catcher, not necessarily a runner, is not the worst idea.
I can see what you're saying there. The thing is, I mean, we don't know. Those are the 2 burning questions. We covered the defense and we talked about RB2 in the red zone, and you're thinking, sitting there like, oh my gosh, what the hell are they gonna do? And I mean, I think for Nebraska, you strive to get those explosive plays. You want to hit those guys. You want to hit a Dane Key. You want to hit a Ja'Cory Barney, and rely on your quarterback. But I like Ives. It was just so weird with the Mekhi Nelson thing, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so we hear it was a coach's decision not to play him because it was out of hand. Then Dana says, "Well, it's good to have him back this week," and I'm like, "What, on Tuesday?" Then Robin asks today about Ives, and he's like, "He'll be available," is what Coach Rule says. And they're thinking, yeah, but it just seems off, the whole thing. So I don't know what to think. And he's not a power back. I mean, he's not.
Yeah, and I want to say that Rule also said another kind of thing you can speculate on. He said, like, Ives or Nelson didn't play, but then he like backtracked and said, I kept him out of the game or something like that. He made it very clear that it was his decision not to play him, and he wasn't on the injury report. So speculation says there's something going on there. It could be, I'm not saying this guy's in like huge trouble or anything, but like it could be an attitude thing. It could be, maybe he was ineligible that week and they were like, hey, weird. They just don't disclose that. I mean, you really have no idea. But in terms of his play, we still have no idea what he's going to do. I mean, he hasn't looked good, Bobby.
I mean, he had 65 yards receiving against Akron in mop-up duty, but I mean, I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. And I can
could have had 65 yards catching or receiving against Akron in mop-up duty.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I could make the same argument with Quentin Ives, but yeah, I don't know. So Sam, I want to get is there anything else that's burning question heading into the game that we haven't covered that you want to talk about?
I mean, you could talk about Underwood and Raiola. I mean, what do you think when it comes to Underwood? I'm not necessarily as worried as a lot of the country is about Underwood. I think Raiola is better. I think Raiola's ceiling is higher. What do you think in terms of the Underwood versus Raiola narrative? And do you think Underwood is going to be a moot point compared to Haynes in this game?
So when I think of Underwood, I mean, 5-star quarterback, probably going to be all Big Ten here in a year or two. Not going to disregard that. But when I think about a true freshman quarterback going on the road without its head coach on a Michigan football team that is not to the caliber of what they were 2 years ago when they won the national championship, I can't pick them. I understand the whole concern about Nebraska's front seven, and I get that. But as a whole, Nebraska, I think, has a more sound special teams unit, and that is crazy of me to say. Who would have thought that this time last year, someone would be saying that?
No one.
Yeah, and Nebraska's secondary is elite. So if Underwood has to throw the football, I'm betting on Nebraska's secondary.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their sixth guy, Donovan Jones, could go start probably at 85% of college football teams.
Yeah.
I say that because Nebraska has, I think, two pros at their cornerback position, Andrew Marshall and Zaire Wright. And then you factor in getting Hartzog back in the nickel position, and then Buford and Singleton as your safeties. Rex Guthrie looks flashy all over the field. If Nebraska forces Michigan to have to throw it in third and longs, do I really think that Underwood, with the hostile environment of 86,000 fans, probably 84,500 of them Nebraska, do I really think that he's going to deliver? I mean, if he beats you, you give him credit, but no, I'm betting on Dylan Raiola, because Dylan, through 3 games, he has over 800 yards, no turnovers. I know he should have had a pick 6 against Cincinnati, but other than that, he's looked smooth. I know he's missed some throws, but he ain't perfect. It's a sophomore quarterback, and he's on pace to break all Nebraska passing records that's ever been held in Lincoln. Mm-hmm. So I think you bet on Dylan Raiola. He's at home. He has his head coach, and that's just Dana Holgorsen, in my opinion. Look at what Dana Holgorsen's done.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to look at Underwood versus Raiola at the end of the game with the grade, the PFF grade, I am taking Raiola every time. I love what you said. I mean, I hate to kind of get into the hype of the whole, like, oh, it's Michigan and Memorial Stadium, but man, it feels like Colorado. I mean, just walking around campus and hearing conversation in class, because as you and I are both students, it feels like Colorado. And I think that is going to matter. I think Sid made a good point in the show earlier this week. He was like, Sean, is it going to be late enough to do the light show? And Sean was like, no, not in September. But like, you wish it was a night game, because if this was a night game, I think you're taking Nebraska every single time. I think you would see the line at almost even. But I think the fact that it's not a night game truly does make a difference. And even though it is a 2:30 game, I think Underwood might crumble under the pressure. I just do. Dylan Raiola had his bad games, and he had his great games his freshman year. And we, as unbiased journalists, need to hope that Bryce Underwood has one of his bad games.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I picked on Monday, and I've stuck with it. I did stand up with Randy Silver of NTV today, and I'm going 27-24 Nebraska. I'm taking it. I'm going to bet on a team that is on the rise versus a team that's on a little bit of a decline without their head coach right now, going into their house with a true freshman quarterback. So I think that it's going to be tight. I think Nebraska goes down and Cal Cunanan kicks a game winner as time expires. So Sam, I want to know your prediction.
Okay, so this is so funny because I knew driving home today that I was going to get asked this, and my roommates, I've lived 7 other guys, and they've been asking me, well, what do you think? What do you think? Well, on Monday, I had Michigan. On Tuesday, I had Nebraska. Yesterday, I had Michigan. I don't have an 100% pick, and you will find out. I will have to make one by tomorrow when we put the intern prediction up on the Red Sea Scrolls. Right now, I think I have enough faith in the defense to say we can win. I think Nebraska's scoring 30. I think the only way Nebraska wins this game is if they score 30. I think it is going to be a nail biter down to the last second, like you said. But I think it's going to be Michigan's offense being stopped by Nebraska's defense, because late in the game, driving down the field, they're going to have to throw the ball. And I know we haven't faced the most electric offenses, but man, that defensive back unit is incredible. And I think Nebraska is going to win 30-24. I think 30-24.
I mean, and I can't
That could
disregard
change
that.
tomorrow. When I put it on, when I put it on the Red Sea Scrolls tomorrow, it might change.
Yeah, and if he does, I'm going to hold Sam accountable for that because I think all our other coworkers are leaning towards Michigan. Sean on for Michigan's website on 3 picked Nebraska, or he's leaning towards Nebraska. So, but yeah, I'm sticking with Nebraska. I said it on Monday at the start of the year when I did my predictions. I picked Michigan. But after seeing what the Nebraska's offense has done and their special teams, those are my two things. I wasn't expecting Nebraska to have this top of the line front seven, and they're averaging over 4 yards per carry. But I agree. So let us once again know what you guys think about the football game in the comments below. We'll be back next week to break down, I guess, whatever happens on Saturday. So I'm Bobby Schneider, and I'm joined by Sam Ojeda. Thank you, guys.